So with all of the buffs that we saw in update 1.2.0 in Granblue Fantasy Relink, we saw the rise of a lot of characters that were underperforming. One such character was Id that I covered in a previous video, but another character that I really want to focus on, one that has one of the coolest mechanics in the game but despite that was still suffering from a lack of damage, and that is none other than Siegfried, a character that can support his team with some really powerful utility buffs in the form of attack and defense increase on top of debuff immunity and the ability to heal by dealing damage with rain. He's a character that I always enjoy having on my party as an AI companion because of all of these reasons, but as a damage dealer, Siegfried was always lacking behind because not only do you have to perfect those timings to be able to deal as much damage as possible, but even when you were able to perfectly execute every single combo, you would still end up with not a lot of damage. And so while having all of that utility and all was very cool, he ended up as a character that just wasn't as represented as he should. But thankfully that all changed with update 1.2.0. And so without any further ado, hello everyone, my name is Dark Hero and welcome back to another Granblue Fantasy Relink video. I just want to say thank you all so much for the support on all of the videos, and let's talk about the Siegfried buffs. So for starters, let's talk about the direct buffs that Siegfried has received. Firstly, the damage cap of a lot of your perfectly timed attacks has been increased, and since that's your main gimmick, that is very important. Additionally, the damage cap of the skill for Dragon has also been increased. Now I don't think that this is an incredibly powerful skill, it's one that I don't use a lot, but it's still nice that at the very least it is being buffed. And finally, the Mastery node enhanced attacks during lane time was modified to make it so that Siegfried is able to perfectly time his executions during lane time. So if you are in lane time, you can just smash the button to deal as much damage as possible. So as you can see, unlike it, there isn't this massive list of direct buffs that Siegfried has received. However, despite that, I feel like he has become a lot more powerful, thanks in part to the direct buffs of the perfectly executed attacks, but secondly because of his new Warpath Sigil. Every single character in the game has received a new one, and some of these are absolutely absurd, and Siegfried's is one of them. So what exactly does the Dragon Slayer Warpath do? Well, it's quite simple really. By equipping this sigil, you will be reducing your defense by 50%, which is a huge penalty, but thankfully on the bright side you end up with a 40% enhanced damage whenever you use your perfectly timed attacks. And this enhanced damage is going to go above the damage cap, so you are able to dish out a lot more damage with Siegfried now. However, that is not the only thing that Siegfried has going for him that allows him to deal even more damage. But before I get into that, let me show you the build that I'm running on Siegfried right now to get the most damage out of him. Starting off with the overmasteries, of course you'll want to make sure that you have as much critical hit rate as possible, and then you would try to go for as much normal attack damage cap up as possible. Thankfully I got very lucky and I have both critical hit rate and normal attack damage cap both at 20%, so that is already pretty fantastic. After that, you would try to get Skybound Art damage cap up and skill damage cap up, and that is in that exact order because as you will see, I actually don't use a lot of offensive skills on Siegfried after the new update. And for my own overmasteries, I also got lucky and got healing cap up by 20%, which means that with rain that I get from one of the skills, I will be able to heal just a little bit more. Now for the build itself, as you can see, I'm running the Dragon Slayer's Awakening with the Dragon Slayer's Warpath. Now there is an argument to be made against using this sigil, because I think that the Dragon Slayer's dominance is very powerful. It's going to give me a 20% defense boost and make me uninterruptible to attacks, aka giving me Stout Heart after I finish a perfectly executed combo. By itself, that is not going to lead to me dealing more damage, but I think that it is a very beneficial effect. But the Dragon Slayer's Ingenuity is something that I think some players are not going to like having on their builds, because it's going to shorten Siegfried's cooldown whenever he lands a combo finisher or a perfect execution. And as I said before, I'm actually only using this one because it has a gap closer that gives me Stout Heart, although for some boss fights I would actually replace it with Verdragon for the defense decrease. My other three skills are Salvator, Malignance, and Mirage. And all of these skills provide me with a lot of utility and sustain, with Salvator giving me and the entire party debuff immunity and rain, Malignance is going to boost my attack and defense by 30%, and Mirage is going to provide a massive 70% defense boost to the entire party. And again, keep in mind that I will always have 50% less defense because of the Warpath Sigil. So getting all of this extra defense is going to be very important in making sure that I do not go down as often. And that is very important because Siegfried's entire playstyle is all about pushing through monster attacks and keep on dealing damage regardless of you being hit, and just trying to deal as much damage as possible. So having these ways that provide me with more defense is going to be very important. And so having a sigil that is going to reduce my skill cooldown a lot as I keep on dealing damage is going to allow me to keep all of those buffs active a lot more often. I then have the classic Tyranny with Aegis, with stamina as well, with this one giving me Potion Hoarder, and one critical hit rate sigil to hit that 100% crit rate. This one comes with stamina, which puts me at stamina level 30 combined with Tyranny level 16. It's a bit overkill, but there are some attacks that I was not hitting the damage cap by having stamina at level 16, and so I ended up going with this one because it doesn't have any drawbacks, it's already leveled up. But for most of Siegfried's kit, you would be able to replace the stamina sigil with some other attack raising sigil or even some other utility sigil, and the difference in damage would be very minor. This stamina comes with Potion Hoarder because I do value having all of these extra potions, especially the blue potions, because they're going to allow me to reach Link time, which very often I do not reach because the boss ends up dying before we can trigger it, so this is going to help me that way. A couple of supplementary damage 5 sigils to provide me with a 74% chance to trigger supplementary damage, which is going to allow me to deal 20% more damage, and that goes above the damage cap, so that is always nice. And I know that these are very rare, but at the very least you are able to farm them from Behemoth. And then I have the classic War Elemental, which allows me to deal essentially 20% more damage, and again that goes above the damage cap. Now, much like with Charlotta, I end up going with 2 Gamma Sigils and 2 Alpha Sigils from the ones that you can obtain from Lucilius. These are just the more effective damage cap 5 sigils, so if you don't have any of these, it's totally fine, you can still go with damage cap 5+, and the difference in damage is not going to be all that massive, and so you would be able to replace them with a damage cap sigil with another utility sigil like Improved Dodge, for example, Nimble Onslaught, Good Cooldown Reduction, or other utility sigils. The 2 Gamma Sigils are going to raise my overall damage cap by an additional 30%, and they're also going to provide me with a shield after I use my Skybound art that is going to block up to 50,000 damage. The shield in itself is just a nice bonus on top, the real essential thing is the 30% damage cap. And then the 2 Alpha Sigils are going to boost the damage cap of my normal attacks by 40%. And seeing as Siegfried is all about using those normal attacks, raising their damage cap by an additional 40% is a huge deal. And the Beta Sigil would only raise the damage cap of my skills, and because I'm only using a single offensive skill, it would be a much worse option than using 2 Alpha Sigils. Furthermore, by having the Alpha at level 30, I'm able to provide an additional 30% Skybound art gauge to all of my allies whenever I use my own Skybound art. Much like with the shield from the Gammas, this is just a nice bonus on top, and more often than not it's not even going to take effect because a lot of times the bosses just end up dying very quickly, but this can lead to the strategy where you and your allies keep on chaining SBAs together, which would make the entire fight a lot quicker and easier. And then for my weapon, I'm of course running the Terminus weapon, though sadly my imbuements aren't all that amazing, but just make sure that you have a critical hit rate Rhinestone. Now all of this that Siegfried has received by itself is already pretty fantastic. You still end up with a character that, just like before, is able to power through any attack and keep on dealing damage, and is still able to provide a lot of sustain to the team. But now he gets to deal a lot more damage, but that is not all. You see, there is a secret tech that Siegfried has, a combo cancel that allows him to deal a lot more damage. I'm not sure who was the first to discover this, but I think it is perfectly highlighted by the creator agility points, just how much damage Siegfried is able to output as of now. These combo cancels are pretty crazy. The way that you do them is essentially, as you are doing your perfectly timed attacks, you dodge at the same time and you keep on doing this until you reach the end of the chain. And then when you're going for the combo finisher, you're also going to be cancelling those. And because the developers have made it so that if you are doing your perfect execution finisher as Siegfried, and say you are about to get hit and you want to dodge out of the way, you would still be able to go into that combo finisher, not losing your place in the combo. However, that has allowed Siegfried to essentially chain together these perfect execution combo finishers, and the damage output that you can get from this thing is absolutely ridiculous. This is not easy to pull off at all, it's very hard to do it against the boss that is constantly moving, but as you can see, the damage damage output that you can get from this thing is absolutely ridiculous, reaching 45 million damage in the 60-second damage test. And furthermore, I do believe that doing those cancels is going to work even better with the Dragon Slayer Ingenuity that provides you an additional skill cooldown whenever you do the perfect execution. So each time you use that tech, you would have an 8% skill cooldown. I'm not 100% sure of this interaction, but if it works that way, it's absolutely crazy. And again, a huge shout out to Agility Points for showcasing this. Overall, these are very big buffs for a character that was not getting a lot of payoff for having a kit that requires skill to be able to execute consistently. It's the type of buff that I really think it's perfect, with of course the combo cancels essentially being an oversight, but because it's actually difficult to pull these off consistently during a boss fight, I personally would not mind if the developers were to keep this in the game. Let's be honest, there is a lot of broken things in this game, and as long as none of that is ruining the fun for other players, I think that that's what matters. I still want to cover some more characters in this type of video. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section below, and also if I should add a webcam to all of these videos. If you guys like the idea, I could totally set up a face cam, so let me know what you think. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. My name is Dark Hero, and as always, happy hunting!